Welcome back to an all new edition of the His and Her Money Show with America's number one money couple. I'm Talent.
And I'm Ty, and we're from hisandhermoney.com, where we're managing money, marriage, and everything in between.
We're so glad that you guys are back here for another edition of the show. And we know, listen, we know, there's no doubt in our mind that this show is going to inspire you like crazy. We're going to be talking with author Tom Corley, and he's going to be sharing the habits of the rich versus the habits of the poor. Do you know why you need to listen to Tom? Because he sat down over years and years and years with hundreds of millionaires trying to find the correlation as to how they were able to obtain their status and how they were able to maintain their status. And he had came with some research that ended up as a book, and now he's going to share some of those findings with you.
You know, outside of us sharing our debt free stories, this is probably one of my most favorite episodes here on the His and Her Money Show. Tom gave so much insight. We've actually shared this podcast on some of our other videos. We made mention of this particular podcast because there's that much information in there that's going to help and change your life. So you definitely want to pay attention. You definitely want to take notes, and you definitely want to, I would also say, get your family involved. Let them take a listen with you and watch this. It's so important that your children get involved, your spouse gets involved, get your girlfriends involved, your boyfriends involved. Everybody needs to take a listen to this because I think that everybody can glean from this and everybody can pull information out of this on how we can become rich.
Hey, Tom, welcome to the His and Her Money Show.
Hey, Tom.
Hi, Talent. Hi, Ty. Thank you for having me on. I'm so honored. You guys are the best.
We are excited to have you on because of all of the work that you have done and the research that you have put into figuring out the habits that rich people have in common and how an everyday person can learn and apply these lessons to their life. So we're excited to hear your insight. But before we get into all of your great advice for us, can you take a moment and introduce yourself to our audience and let them know what you're all about?
Sure. So my name's Tom Corley. Um, my my trade is really a CPA, certified public accountant. I'm a certified financial planner. I have a master's in tax. So I spent most of my adult life focusing on uh, helping people with their finances. And I really stumbled onto this rich habit stuff because of my business. I have a lot. I have 1,000 clients. I have probably 200 small businesses that I have to advise in one way, shape, or form. And one of those small business owners, um, right after I took over the helm of my CPA firm, demanded to meet with me, and he needed to get a line of credit because his bank had shut down his line of credit. I couldn't help him, not in the short term anyway. And so he broke down, started crying, and he said, what is it that I'm doing wrong? Because he was really on the verge of bankruptcy, and he wasn't going to be able to make payroll that week. And he just cried and sobbed, and he said, "What am I doing wrong? What are your successful clients doing that I'm not doing?" So I ended up creating what became what I call my 20 question list, but it's really 144 questions, 20 categories, 144 questions. And I asked 233 wealthy individuals and 128 poor individuals those questions. My goal was to find out what I wanted to answer one question. Why are rich people rich and why are poor people poor? That's all I wanted to get to. I wanted to understand the why behind it so I could help, really just to help advise my clients. But it ended up evolving into a book, then a second book, now a third book, and it's kind of escalated when Dave Ramsey had me on his show, and then CBS, and I've had probably hundreds and hundreds of interviews after that. So I just never expected anything like this to happen, and I'm just I'm grateful that I'm able to share my research with anybody at all.
So can you talk about the scope of your research? Like how many years was this over? How did you
Sure.
come to these conclusive conclusions that you share with people all over the country?
Well, I just want to say right out of the gate, I had no idea that when I started my research what the answer would be as to the why. Why are some people rich and some people poor? So I had absolutely no idea. So I spent I guess about from 2004 through 2008 asking the questions and gathering the information on sheets of paper that fill a couple of cabinets, and then transferring that information onto Excel worksheets. I'm really good at Excel, so that helped. And I have all these Excel worksheets, kind of tied into one another and into something I call the research summary, which ended up being over 300 data points. And then I realized, my gosh, it comes down to our daily habits. Almost all of these are your habits. These are just the little things that you do every single day. And so I started out just doing, I call them learning sessions. I did about a dozen or so for free. I did just exactly what Dale Carnegie did. I put up a flyer in the YMCA, the local YMCA, offering free learning sessions to anybody who was interested in learning about the rich habits. And that went on for about 6 months. I did about 12 of those, and a couple of the individuals really started to turn the engines on in their life, and they made a lot of more money than they were making. And they said, "Hey, you've got to write a book on this. This is, doing it the way you're doing it with these learning sessions is great, but you're never going to be able to share it with the millions and millions of people that have to know this stuff." So I said, "Well, I've never written a book before. I won't even. I'm a CPA. I've written articles, technical articles on IRAs, on SPIAs, on mergers and acquisitions. I've never written a book before, so I had absolutely no idea what to do, how to do it. I did my diligence. I have a rule of three. If I don't know something, I read 3 books. So I read 3 books on how to write a book, and I came to the conclusion that this was significantly simpler than taking the CPA exam. So I said, I'm going to write a book, and I wrote a book. It became a bestseller. I mean, I went from on Amazon, I think I was ranked in the millions, to number 7 in the entire United States. I was ahead of J.K. Rowling. I was ahead of Tony Robbins. I was ahead of Dave Ramsey. I was ahead of all of these really incredibly successful authors, and I knew then and there that I had tapped into something big.
Wow. So let's talk about, what was the habit that you found to be the most frequently used by the wealthy people?
Well, this is a tough one, Ty, because it's really not one, it's 2. Okay. So I think reading every single day to learn, 30 minutes or more, that's 88% of the wealthy did that. Only 6% of the poor did that. I think that was the biggest differentiator, the biggest gap between the rich and the poor. But I'll be honest with you, now that I've been doing this for a long time, I've been at this, almost 10 years now, right? I've come to the conclusion that the rich habit that is about really pursuing your dreams. I call it dream setting, rich habit, pursuing your dreams and your goals. You have to, what I found is, out of the 233 millionaires, 177 of them were self-made millionaires. So what I found was all of those self-made millionaires were doing the same exact thing, 100% of them. They were all pursuing something they were passionate about. So, and this is interesting because this gets into really another book I'm writing, which is Rich Thinking. There's 2 parts of the brain. I simplify it by calling it new brain and old brain. So the new brain is the neocortex and the frontal lobe, frontal part of our brain. That's been around for a couple 100,000 years. The old brain is the limbic system and the brainstem. That's been around for millions and millions of years. The evolution of that part of the brain is so sophisticated, and and it really is the part of the brain that controls almost everything that we do. The new brain is our executive command and control center. It allows us to think. Some people call it the conscious part of our brain. The old brain is the subconscious, and so what I found is when we're trying to focus and become successful, and we decide, oh, we're going to focus on something. If we're not focusing on something we're really passionate about and we love, we're tapping into the new brain, which is you have to use willpower. You have to, and the new brain is not as efficient as the old brain. So you're using this new physiology that is an energy hog with the brain, and it saps us of our energy, and we lose our willpower. The self-made millionaires, the 177 self-made millionaires, they tapped into the old brain. They tapped into their passion, and the passion is a whole different thing, because when you tap into your passion, you're tapping into the emotional part of the brain, which resides in the old brain, the amygdala. When you tap into the old brain, you can pursue something for a lifetime without tiring. When you're pursuing something you're not passionate about, let's face it, like somewhere close to 92% of the population don't like what they do for a living. So they're using their new brain. They're exerting willpower. They're exhausting themselves because they don't like what they do for a living. So they never really succeed because their focus is limited. When you tap into your old brain, your amygdala, your passion, which is the thing that opens the door to the old brain, you're tapping into unlimited brain power, unlimited energy, and the byproduct is persistence.
Awesome. Now, I know also another big thing that came out of your research is that you found that 81% of the wealthy use or make a to-do list, where only 19% of the poor do this. Why is this a to-do list such a quality habit that we should have in our lives?
Well, the to-do list is really your accountability partner. So what the wealthy found is that when they create a to-do list, it forces them to confront the things that they didn't get done during the day. So now you're looking at it and you're saying, whoa, I've got to stop procrastinating. So that to-do list, what it does is it's actually an anti-procrastination tool. It's your accountability partner if you don't have one, somebody nagging you, telling you got to do this, you got to do that. They call those people bosses usually. Mm-hmm. So this is really your boss, your to-do list. And it forces you to get things done that you might otherwise not get done. But it's actually more powerful than that from my research. And here's why. So one of the things that differentiates the rich from the poor is that the rich have certain specific habits. I call them the rich habits, and the poor have habits, I call them the poverty habits, that hold them back in life. What the to-do list allows you to do is process habit change. For example, my to-do list pre-populates. When I pull out my to-do list for the week, and I have a weekly to-do list, Monday through Sunday, and on the left is a column which lists all of the things that I want to get done. And I usually check it off. I got it done Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday. On that to-do list, I pre-populated it with certain things. Read every day, 30 minutes or more for self-education. Make one hello phone call today. Make happy birthday calls, and exercise. I try and do 30 minutes of aerobic exercise every day. So I have that all pre-populated on my to-do list, and I have to confront that to-do list every day. What's happened is, because I've had it on my to-do list so long, I don't even need to check it off now because it's become a habit. I'm actually working on another to-do list where I'm going to take off those pre-populated habits that I put on there, habits that didn't have before that I was trying to form, and I'm going to add new habits. and I'm going to do that for the next 6 months. I'm going to check off every day like I did with the old habits, and this is a way of baby stepping your way into habit change, because now you can use the to-do list as the mechanism for habit change. So I think it's actually a very powerful tool. I don't think people use it exactly the right way, and that's why I try and get out there and talk as much about it as I can.
Now, I know that someone may be asking, is there a particular app maybe that you use on your phone or that you can suggest?
There are habit apps. In fact, I just tweeted out a few today that I came across in my research. But what I actually use is an Excel worksheet. I love Excel. I'm just so good at it. It's one of these things where if you're really good at something, you're efficient,
right,
and get it done like in seconds. So for me to now go and say I'm going to go and try one of these new habit apps that they're all starting to pop up, it would require an investment in my time, and I'm not willing to make that investment. So I use Excel, this Excel worksheet, which it just works for me. So the answer is no, I don't have an app. If you want to call Excel an app, I guess I do have an app. It's Excel.
Now, I heard you mention also that you exercise daily. And you found in your research that 76% of the wealthy exercise at least 4 days a week, and what was it, 23% of the poor do not?
Yeah. So 23% of the poor exercise
weekly. Sorry about that.
So most of them weren't exercising. And so here's the thing. There's something, this gets into something I call opportunity luck and detrimental luck. So let's talk about opportunity luck. So the wealthy people are exercising every day. They're trying to keep their weight down. They're trying to stay healthy. That increases their energy, increases their productivity, because when you're healthy, that means you're not experiencing as many sick days, right? So now, because you're showing up every day and you have more energy and you have more productivity, this creates the opportunity for you to have more luck because you're working more hours, you're being more productive. And the opportunity luck might very well be that you live till 90 and you're productive till 90 because you took care of your health. Let's look at the flip side with poor people. So they're not exercising every day. They're not taking care of their health, at least from what I can tell from my research. They're overweight, and all of these things manifest certain health problems. They become obese. They might get type 2 diabetes. They might have heart disease. One of the wealthy people in my study, who was 68 years old, was worth about $17 million, was working about 12 hours a day, loving what he did, by the way. They don't call it work. They call it play. They love what they're doing. So we look at it and we say, wow, that guy's got a great work ethic. You know, Ty works so hard. She's working 12 hours a day. Ty, I asked Richard Branson, because I was able to do a speaking engagement with him last year. He's known for working long hours, 12 to 14-hour days. So I asked him, I said, do you consider what you do work? And he said, no, absolutely not. It's play. So he said, Tom, let me ask you this. If I told you I played 12 to 14 hours a day, what would you think about me? I would say, I would think you're lazy. And he goes, exactly. He goes, that's how I feel, because I'm playing 12 to 14 hours a day. I'm not working. I feel like I'm lazy every day. So this thing where the poor people just are not taking care of their health, it creates all sorts of problems. And this one wealthy person told me, Tom, look, I can't make money laying in a hospital bed. So I need to stay healthy. I'm 68 years old. I knew 35 years ago when I decided to start to get healthy, I knew that if I could be healthy enough where I could squeeze out another 5 years of so-called work, play in his mind, in his case, that translated into another $6 million. So I said, well, that's great, but I still don't understand. Why do you need to make another $6 million? You're worth $17 million. And he said, it's not for me. It's to help my kids and my grandkids, and maybe their kids go to college and have a great education. So, you know, these wealthy people they just look at things differently than than the rest of us. And I guess the key is to get into, take a walk in their shoes mentally. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get the word out there about the rich habits so that people can just walk in the shoes of the wealthy and not have to struggle in life.
Now, you kind of touched on things that rich people look at. So another really kind of interesting factoid that came out of your research was that only 6% of the wealthy watch reality TV, and 76% of the poor spend their time watching reality TV. What should be the takeaway from that?
Well, one of the wealthy people, when I was talking to them about the fact that they didn't watch TV, and particularly they avoided reality TV, they said to me, Tom, why on earth would I want to watch somebody else's life when my life is so much more interesting? I mean, this is the thing. I think that the poor people, it goes to the heart of the problem or the mindset of the poor people. They're so miserable in their lives that these reality TV shows, you've seen them. Those people are train wrecks on most of them, right? They watch those shows and they say, you know what? I'm not so bad. Yeah. It's entertaining. Plus, it makes me feel better about myself because they are so much worse than I am. So I think that's part of the problem. It's sort of an escape from their reality so that they can watch somebody else who is absolutely much worse than they are. And rich people think differently. They look at themselves and they say, I am living the dream. I'm doing what I love. Those people on those reality TV shows, the only thing they're going to do is drag me down mentally. I'm going to feel terrible after watching, these poor people struggle in life. They making bad decisions, doing the wrong things, thinking wrong. Why would I possibly want to watch that? So I think that's really the big thing. Poor people use it as an escape, and rich people avoid it because they don't want to be dragged down into that negative mental mindset.
Now, your research also suggests that the wealthy instill good habits into the children. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, what was interesting is 76% of the wealthy came from either poor backgrounds or middle-class backgrounds. So that means that their parents weren't rich, right? And for them, it didn't matter because their parents, despite the fact that they weren't rich, instilled in them certain habits that I call the rich habits that they carried with them into their adult lives. And the parents were just trying to, we all have the American dream, really, if you want to boil it down to its core, is we want our kids to have a better life than us, right? So I think that a lot of these parents of these self-made millionaires, that's all they wanted, their kids to do better than they did. So they were teaching them certain habits, and that's the key. Parents mentoring their kids for success is the solution to poverty. There's no question about it. You heard of Dr. Ben Carson? Mm-hmm. He's probably one of the individuals I guess I look up to the most because I was poor and he was poor, but I had a mom and dad. He only had a mom, and he was born and raised in the ghettos of Detroit. But his mom did two things that she learned from wealthy people. She used to clean houses for wealthy people, and she watched how they raised their kids. And she noticed two things. One is they made their kids read to learn every day, outside of school. I'm talking about outside of schoolwork. And they limited how much TV their kids could consume during the day. So she came, when it dawned on her, when the light bulb went off, she sat her kids down. She said, "No more TV, and you guys are going to have to read every day." Mm-hmm. And she made Ben and his brother Curtis, I think is his name, read every day. They would literally leave school, go to the library, and then come home at dinner time, and they would have to do this every day. And they did this for years. And at the end of the week, they were required to write a summary of what they learned during the week in their reading. And so their mother would read the summary, would go over it, make notes. She would actually make notes on the summary and say, okay, good. Great job, Ben. Great job, Curtis. And when Ben was in high school, it wasn't until then that he learned, because he overheard somebody talking about his mom being illiterate. She couldn't read a word of what they were writing. So she was poor, and yet she still was able to teach them this one rich habit, reading to learn. And that one rich habit pulled them out of the ghetto. And now Ben Carson's running for president. And by the way, his brother Curtis is no slob. You know, the guy's a brake engineer for Boeing. Mm-hmm. He's a Boeing makes airplanes. Mm-hmm. I mean, the guy's successful. So there's no question that these rich habits work. And the thing that I found, why I guess I love Ben Carson so much, is it was only one habit that that completely changed him from a C student to an A student, and inspired him, because he decided, I'm going to start reading. I have to read to learn, because that's what my mother's making me do. But I'm going to read to learn stuff that I like. So he started reading about science and medicine and successful people. And what he found out in his reading, and his brother Curtis, they both found out, hey, a lot of these really wealthy, successful people were poor. Actually, they were poorer than us, and they were less educated than us. And they said, well, if they can do it, why can't we do it?
Right. Wow. Let's stay there for a minute. To the people listening right now, I mean, you kind of touched on it with how incorporating just one of these habits totally changed Ben Carson's life. For our audience, why is it important for them to get your book and learn these habits and incorporate them into their daily lives?
Well, the one thing that they're gonna get out of my books, and I have two books, Rich Habits, Rich Kids, and I'm coming out with another one in January, Change Your Habits, Change Your Life. What they're going to get out of my books are a couple things. One is hope, because they're going to see that there are individuals who were probably worse off than they were, that were able to alter their life circumstances just by changing their habits. The other thing they're going to pick up is, well, fine, what habits do I need to adopt in order to be successful? What are these wealthy habits, these rich habits? And so I share that in all my books. And the third thing they're going to get, particularly out of the Change Your Habits, Change Your Life book, is actually how to go about it. How do you change your habits? So I not only share with them the habits that they need to have, I share with them the habits that are holding them back. I also share with them the habits, the latest habit strategies, and not only from my research, but from the latest science on habit change. I share all of that with them in my books. And so they're getting this whole holistic picture of habits so that they can improve their lives. And the interesting thing is that when you even adopt one rich habit, it completely changes your mindset, because it starts shifting you from a negative mental attitude to a positive mental attitude. I think that's the biggest shift initially after reading my book. You go from negative to positive. And then if you stick with the habits and as long as you do it right, habits will stick, and it requires taking small steps, taking baby steps. There are shortcuts to habit change. I talk about in my books, habit stacking, having an accountability partner like the to-do list. So you have all of these different tools that I explain in the books on how to actually adopt and change your habits. And I think it gives you confidence. It gives you, it changes your belief system, because you're reading stuff about people who were poor or not rich transform their lives, and you start to think, well, wait a minute, I was born poor. I just assumed if you're born poor, you're going to stay poor your whole life, but that's not necessarily the case. And wait a minute, Tom's saying that wealthy people are actually good people. They're not bad, evil, greedy people. Well, that's a belief that I had. I try and challenge your belief system so that you can change your beliefs and change your habits and transform your life. And it does work. I mean, it's there. I can't tell you how many emails I get every day about people that are telling me, thank you so much. I keep all of these, I print them out and I put them in my testimonial. I don't even know what I'm going to do with this stuff. I have so many of them, probably hundreds and hundreds of these people that are thanking me for changing their lives. And not only that, for putting their kids on the right path.
Love that. Love that. Can you tell our audience more about your site, richhabits.net, and how they can also get a copy of your book?
Yeah, so this richhabits.net is an awesomely powerful site because I share all of my research data with the readers. My publicist hates this. She tells me, stop putting so much content on your website. You're giving it away for free, and I am. I really don't care. So every time I come up with a new stat that I think is really important, I'll write a research article on it, and I'll post it to my website. To me, the website is a holding pen because I use that to create a lot of my books. So you can spend 50 hours, and believe me, 50 hours is probably not enough time because I have so much content on there. You can spend 50 hours going through all my articles, my research articles, or my books are probably the shortcut because my Rich Habits is only less than 100 pages, so you can get that done in 3 or 4 hours. Rich Kids is like 200 pages, so you can get that done in about 6 hours. And Change Your Habits, Change Your Life is about 150 pages, so that doesn't take a lot of time. But the other thing about my website that I think would be of value to your audience is I have a tip of the morning to you that I post every morning, and it's always tied to my research. I try and post my major national media publicity that I get, and the reason is not because I want to say, hey, look at me, I'm so successful, I'm on the media. A lot of, just like we're doing right now, I get asked questions, and then I share information, and it's not always the same information. So you can go and watch the different TV interviews that I've had, or listen to the radio interviews, or read the hundreds and hundreds of articles that have been written in over 23 countries about my rich habits. So I have so much information on that website. All you've got to do is log on and just there's a section where you could subscribe to the blog, and then every morning you'll get my tip of the morning to you. And you could also get my books on there too. I also have free ebooks on there. I have free research articles. They're like my, they're free reports. They're like my research articles, but on steroids. They're, instead of it being say 700 or 1,000 words, they're like 2,000, 2,500 words. So I go into a little bit more detail with the research articles. Not big enough for an ebook, and too big for an article. So voila, it becomes a research report.
Well, Tom, we are so happy that you came on the show to share this information, because we know that this has been beneficial to us. Absolutely. And we know that it is beneficial to our audience. So thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come on the show today.
Thank you.
Well, I'm honored that you guys had me on. I really am. You give me the opportunity to pull myself out of my little cave, right, and share my research. So I'm honored, and I'm blessed that you guys were interested in my research, and I want to thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Wasn't that incredible, guys? We told you were going to love this episode. What I love the most about these tips that he shared was nothing that he shared was anything that we cannot do.
It's true. It's all doable.
Everything that he shared with us that the rich do, we can do and we can obtain that
That's
status.
right. And as he was sharing, I had a mental checklist like, check, okay, I do that. Oh, no, I don't do that. Maybe I need to do a little bit better. So I'm sure that everyone watching here, you found yourself in this episode, on ways that you can improve and some things that you're doing and that you're doing right. So keep that up. But let's do a lot better, guys. We want to change the world, right? We all do, right? So we all can be better. We need to become better and have better habits.
Now, the Bible tells us in regards to reading the scriptures to not be hearers of the word only, but to also be doers.
That's right.
Let's take that same biblical principle and apply it to this information. We don't want you guys to just tune into this show and say, wow, that was deep, and not do anything with it. Now it's time to take what you heard and put it into action.
That's right. Well, guys, we hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget, check us out over at our website at hisandhermoney.com.
And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, The His and Her Money Show, on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher Radio. Wherever you need us, you can take us on the go so that you can stay motivated on your journey to financial freedom. Well, guys, that's it for this week. Until next time.
Bye.
Peace.